in this live stream, we're going to be working together to research the main event of UFC 297, the fight between Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. It's a very interesting matchup because it's a fight, first of all, where the odds are in the even money odds range, which means if you can lean 60-40 one way or the other, you can often find a good position to put your money. But it's also a very interesting fight because a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on this matchup, and I often find in situations like that it can be very difficult to kind of know what's up with a matchup like this, because every analyst, every YouTuber, everyone in the MMA community is going to be sharing their opinions on how they feel this fight is most likely to play out. And the only place you're going to find truth, honesty, a balanced opinion on the actual facts and how both du Plessis and Strickland match up and how this fight most likely plays out is by taking a look at the fight footage. The fight footage doesn't lie. So by working together to look at this footage together, research this fight together as a community, hopefully we'll all be pretty well informed as to the strengths and weaknesses of both du Plessis and Strickland, how they match up stylistically, and by the end of this stream should be able to figure out if there's a strong position for us to put our money on this fight and if either of these guys is going to be worth betting. This is a live stream, so it's not going to be that structured, it's not going to be that organised. It's why you don't see any timestamps or anything like that on here. We're really just going to be working together as a community to watch some of du Plessis and Strickland's recent fights, kind of work out how they match up. So I'm just going to check all the streams are working. It looks like we're working on YouTube. YouTube looks good. We're live on Twitch as well. Twitter is the final place I'm trying to stream this. I was trying to stream it on my Discord server as well. Couldn't work out how to do that. And we are live on the Twitter. Brilliant. Amazing. Hey, what's up, Cyfix? Good to see you, mate. What is up, mate? What is up, Hilts? Hope you're doing good, mate. So what I'm just going to do is put out a message on Discord, let everyone know that we're live, and then we'll be good to go. So apologies for this, guys. If I go, hey everyone, bam, bam, and if we go pop in these URLs, apologies for this, guys, we'll be good to go in just a second. Let's blast it out on Telegram as well, man, and then we'll be good to go. Almost ready to go, guys. Almost ready to go. Should probably have pre-written these. I'll remember for next time, because I do want to reach, or I do want to do a live stream for the co-main event between Mayra Bueno Silva and Raquel Pennington, because I think that could be a good fight as well. Alrighty then, let's get into it. So what is up, everybody? What's up, Lyndon? Hope you're doing good, mate. What's up, David L? Hope you're doing good. Hey, what's up, Joey McBride, mate? Joey is saying, I think du Plessis finishes Strickland, but if it gets extended, we've seen Duplessis' cardio fall off badly in fights already. You know what, guys? I am kind of agreeing with Lyndon here. I do think this is potentially an amazing stylistic matchup for Strickland. I'm really interested in betting Strickland, but of course the footage is going to show us what is true. I was really surprised actually in the Discord community. So many people are leaning towards Duplessis from the guys I've spoken to in recent days about this fight, which really surprises me, because I thought most people would be on Strickland's side for this one. So it'll be interesting to see what the footage shows us. Maybe I've got this one completely wrong and I'll change my opinion as we work through the footage. But initially, I think this could be a nightmare stylistic matchup for Duplessis, but we'll soon find out. Hey, what's up, Shackle? Rusty Ford, hope you're doing good, mate. Hey, Todd, hope you're doing good, mate. What's up, Darren? Hope you're doing good. Yeah, Darren, that's a really good point. So, I tell you what, we'll go through the odds and the tail of the tape, and then we will talk about the other X factors on this fight, because I do feel there's quite a few of them. So, let's take a look. So, if we start off by taking a look at the odds, both guys are in the even money odds range. It's quite a big odds spread, but we'll say the average odds on Strickland at the moment are going to be about 1.80, which is minus 125 for an implied probability of 56%. If we take a look at the odds on Duplessis, he's around an average of 2.10, which is going to be plus 110 for an implied probability of 48%. So Duplessis is 29 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach, and Strickland, 32 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. So both guys roughly the same age, roughly the same size. Nothing to really separate them there. The couple of X factors that I wanted to talk about on this one, and let me know if you guys can think of anything else that I'm missing. The first is obviously Duplessis' cardio. So obviously we're going to watch these fights that I'm going to talk about in this stream, but Duplessis' cardio looked absolutely terrible in these three fights. He gassed extremely bad against Brunson, Till and Tavares, and the problem we've got is when you look at the Whittaker fight, it ended after about 7 minutes, so we didn't really get to see how Duplessis' cardio looked in the second half of that matchup, because it had ended by then. And if you look at Duplessis' fights prior to the Tavares matchup, they all kind of ended pretty quick as well. So we may go back and take a look at his fight against Roberto Soldic, which went into round 3 back in 2018. Quite interesting how he's finished in round 3 as well. Could that be a sign that maybe he gassed out and got finished late? I have watched that fight in the past, but it was such a long time ago. I can't remember what happened. Because I do think cardio is going to be a big factor in this matchup, because we know Strickland's a cardio machine. We know he can go hard for 5 rounds. Yeah, I've never even seen Strickland breathing heavy. He's the kind of guy that can be in an absolute war for 4 rounds, and then going into the 5th round, you know, he's still pacing back and forth in his corner, doesn't even sit on the stool. You know, he's not even breathing heavy. The guy's a freak. He's just got that crazy genetic, never-ending gas tank. Whereas we've seen Duplessis gas real bad. Now, obviously, what complicates this fight quite a bit is if Duplessis comes in and performs like he did against Brunson and Till, I think he's in a lot of trouble here. I think it's a really bad stylistic matchup for him, because if he doesn't get the job done early, I could see this fight go in a very similar way to Strickland's fight against Abus Magomedov, where Duplessis just gets outworked and drowned in pressure and volume, right? But obviously, after the Derek Brunson fight, Duplessis said that he had nose surgery to correct breathing issues from a broken nose, which had an impact on his cardio in those fights. So Duplessis acknowledged that he didn't look particularly good in these 3 fights, acknowledged that his cardio was really bad in these 3 fights, because he's just an absolute beast, just a tough, gritty, mean, nasty, aggressive dude. He just kind of toughed it out, dealt with the nose injury, and now that he's had surgery after the Derek Brunson fight, that was the reason why he potentially looked better in the Whittaker matchup. Although we need to take a close look at the Whittaker fight because, like I say, it ended after 7.5 minutes. So we need to see in that matchup if there was any signs that Duplessis was starting to slow. And a way that we can do that is when we look at Duplessis' fights against Brunson, Till and Tavares, where we know for a fact that he slows. What we want to do is pay attention in these 3 fights to how Duplessis looked about a minute or 2 into round 2. So we can see if there's any correlations between how Duplessis looked against Whittaker, how he looked in these 3 fights. And then that can give us some kind of insight into what Duplessis may have looked like in the second half of the Whittaker fight had it not ended so quickly in the round 2. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. It's one of those fights where if Duplessis' cardio is as bad as it was in these 3 matchups, I think this is a nightmare stylistic matchup for him, and I'll most likely be betting Strickland. But if his cardio did look a lot better against Whittaker, then that would be an indication that the nose surgery has fixed those breathing issues, and that obviously makes this a far more difficult fight for Strickland, because if Duplessis is capable of fighting for 4 or 5 rounds like he can fight for 1 or 2 rounds, he's going to be a nightmare. So that's the first X factor that we're going to focus a lot on in this research session together. The second X factor that I think is worth paying attention to is whether or not Strickland has turned a corner in terms of his fight IQ and his just overall strategic aspect of his fighting, because I feel when it comes to the strategic game planning aspect of MMA, I feel this is an area that Strickland's really weak in. You know, how many times have we seen him go up against guys where, you know, he would have a clear advantage over them in one particular area and he would just not choose to use them. Of course, I'm talking about his fights against Alex Pereira, Jared Cannonier. You know, we know these guys have really bad takedown offense, quite a low-level ground game, yet he chose to get into a really close stand-up war with Cannonier and barely shot a takedown. So, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not saying Strickland would have loads of success if he grappled against Duplessis. All I'm trying to say is that Strickland is one of these guys that's very predictable. All of his fights are the same. He just comes forward, takes control of the centre of the octagon, puts a lot of pressure on his opponents, doesn't really mix it up, doesn't really throw many kicks, doesn't really shoot many takedowns, doesn't give his opponents a lot else to think about other than that really one-dimensional style that Strickland fights with. And although that one-dimensional style is really good, it's really effective, it means there's no kind of surprises, right? Duplessis, unless Strickland mixes things up, will know exactly what to expect this weekend, and that makes it easy to game plan for Strickland. But the X factor that I'm trying to tie that point to is obviously there's a lot of bad blood coming into this matchup. There was that brawl at the UFC event where Strickland and Duplessis got into it, and if you listen to Sean Strickland talk about the incident after the fact, and also, you know, listen to him on Theo Von's podcast, he kind of opened up and talked about how Duplessis making light of the abuse that Strickland suffered as a child. It really kind of it kind of hit a nerve with Strickland, where, you know, Strickland had gone through a lot of trauma in his childhood, and he spoke really openly about this on the Theo Von podcast. And then Duplessis kind of tried to make fun of him about it and turn it into a bit of a weakness, and because of that, Strickland kind of snapped at the UFC event, and that's what led to the brawl. And I did think there was something going on there, because even though Strickland plays this persona as being like a crazy, wild guy, he isn't really. He does come across like underneath the surface. You can see beneath that WWE character, there's like a genuine, I think, kind, warm-hearted person that's very much playing a character and amplifying and exaggerating a certain personality. So when he kind of leapt across 2 rows of seats to attack Duplessis, it's very out of character. Strickland's not the kind of guy that you'd think would usually do that kind of thing. So is that an X factor we need to think about? Is that maybe a sign that you know, Strickland's going to be more aggressive in this fight, or more motivated, or take this fight more seriously, or really want to make an example out of Du Plessis and fight smart for once and mix it up and grapple and, you know, come in with a really good game plan and strategy? Or is he going to come in with a chip on his shoulder, get overly aggressive, take the fight to Du Plessis, get into a gunfight, get into crazy exchanges, and end up getting knocked out like he did against Pereira? I'm not saying that he obviously got into a firefight against Pereira, but he got knocked out against Pereira. We know Du Plessis hits very hard. So these are all questions for us to think about and discuss as we go through the research. What I'm going to do, we'll catch up on the comments now, and then I reckon we just jump straight into watching some fight footage of these two. So let's jump over to Twitch. Hey, what's up, the life of Stevio? Yeah, this is live, mate. This is a live stream. We're just going to be researching this fight together, and I want to do another stream for Mayra Bueno Silva, Raquel Pennington tomorrow, so we'll try and do it about the same time. So if you're up for researching that fight, come back tomorrow and we'll get on that one. Hey, what's up, Cyfix, mate? You know what, Cyfix, I definitely want to do these live streams more often. What happens is when we get that big break in the UFC schedule in January, it just gives me time to like recharge my batteries, catch up on everything, and then come back hard in January with more time to do stuff like this, the live streams. The problem is when we got that crazy spring summer schedule, I think last year we had 5 straight months of consecutive UFC events every week. If it was like 11 or 12 fights every week, I'd be able to bang out the live streams. But when we get those cards which have got like 14, 15 fights on, they just take so long to research. It starts to like, I start to fall behind as the weeks go by. So right now, like, I'm on it. All my breakdown videos are uploaded on the website. We do, you know, I've already researched a good number of fights for next week's card, and you know, I'm ahead of schedule. But then the further we get into that spring summer stretch, where it's back to back UFC events every week, I will start to fall behind and it'll get harder to do the live streams. But from now until like May or June, hopefully we're going to be able to do a bunch of these live streams, man, because I'll have more time until that mad international fight week summer schedule starts, where it just gets crazy in July and August. So yeah, we'll try and do more, man. Let's go through the comments on YouTube. Todd Rockwell is asking, how good is Strickland's defensive wrestling? From memory, Strickland's a significantly better MMA grappler than Du Plessis. From memory. I think mainly because Du Plessis is one of these guys that does slow down quite a bit when he grapples, whereas Sean's got the cardio to grapple hard for however long he needs to. So Joey McBride is saying that Strickland's knees are shot, that's why he never grapples hard. And Todd Rockwell is saying that could be from the motorcycle accident that Strickland had. That's a great point, man. What we got? Elder is saying Strickland's not that good against knockout artists. Tricky, man. Yeah, I do agree a bit with Todd Rockwell here. I'm not sure if I would call Du Plessis a knockout artist, only because he did obviously drop Whittaker. We're going to watch that fight in a moment, which is impressive because Whittaker's got a granite chin. But then he kind of got the stoppage against Brunson because Brunson was absolutely gassed out of his mind. Darren Till was gassed out of his mind in this fight. And Du Plessis couldn't knock him out. Couldn't knock out Tavares. I don't know. Could be wrong. But we'll have to take a look at these 3 fights to gauge like the level of knockout artist Du Plessis is, I think is fair to say. Because what you'll notice is he's knocking out these lower level guys, but then as soon as he faces a step up in competition, Brad Tavares, Darren Till, he's almost going the distance with Till. went the distance with Tavares, and Brunson was absolutely gassed out of his mind. Obviously, the Whittaker win's amazing. But if we look at Strickland's record, 33 pro fights, from memory, I don't think Strickland's been knocked out very much. Maybe 2 or 3 times in his entire career. So he was knocked out against Pereira, knocked out against Elizu Zaleski dos Santos, and outside of that has never been knocked out. So Strickland's only been knocked out twice in 33 pro fights, which is incredible when you consider for a big chunk of Strickland's career, he's been consistently competing against a really high level of opponent. You know, you look back at his days in the welterweight division, you know, he fought Santiago Ponzinibbio in his, you know, only his 3rd fight, and Ponzinibbio's always been a nightmare. You know, Usman, Tom Breeze. You know, he's fought a mixed bag. I can't say he's fought against a super high level his whole career, but he, you know, to only get knocked out twice in 33 pro fights, that's pretty impressive, man. Nicholas Lamb is saying if Strickland comes out like he did against Izzy, stone cold and focused, then he seriously doubts that Duplessis got the ability to get into his head. It's a good point, man. Reality Filter is saying that apart from the title fight, this is such a weak card. Do you know what though, dude? This is just me being a fight geek. I think this card's absolutely amazing, personally. Like, I know a lot of people will look at this card and be like, you know, it hasn't got any big names on it. It's got a women's bantamweight fight as a co-main, which is, you know, really shit. But when I look at this card, for me, it's got a lot of interesting matchups. For me, there's nothing worse than having an event where there's nothing worse for me personally than when you've got a big pay-per-view where the main event and the co-main event are just like one-sided squash matches, where you know the big favourite is just going to go out there and absolutely smoke the underdog, and it's just not going to be an interesting fight. I love a card like this because the co-main and the main should be really competitive. They could go either way. You know, all 4 fighters involved are really well-rounded. You know, these are 2 interesting competitive matchups. Curtis Barrio is a good one. Katona Armfield's a good one. Evloev Arnold Allen could be a great fight. We haven't seen Allen's takedown offense and ground game in a really, really long time, so that could be a great one. Woodson Jordan is an amazing fight. You know, I think it's a pretty good card, personally. I know it hasn't got the big names, but it does have interesting competitive fights. It should be good for live betting, and that's all. That's all I care about. Just give me the competitive fights, man. David L is saying he's interested in the under on this fight. What are the odds on the under? I haven't even thought about that. But they're not out yet. Alright. I'll have to go on a different website to check that in a bit. John Citizen is saying Whittaker's chin's been cracked since the Yoel Romero fight. He did get wobbled a few times in that fight, right? Palisade Silver is saying I don't see Duplessis slacking on his cardio training for this one. This is the fight of his career. That is a really good point. When I'm maybe being critical of Duplessis' cardio, I don't mean to be critical of it by implying that he doesn't train hard, because the guy's an absolute beast. I really like Duplessis, but some guys just genetically slow down, right? I don't think it's necessarily always a training issue. I just think it's like a biological issue, right? How can you get some guys like Sean Strickland that can go hard for 25 minutes and not even breathe heavy, and then you get these other guys that are completely done after 3 or 4 minutes? It just doesn't make much sense. Few people saying that Whittaker's chin's been cracked since the Izzy fight. Todd Rockwell saying Duplessis a brute. He works on gases and less physical opponents. Technique and cardio might make Duplessis look low level, but I thought Rob would make him look low level. We'll soon. Yeah, we need to watch this Whittaker fight, man. John Citizen says Hart says Sean, but Brain says Du Plessis. Reality Filter saying too many events spreading the talent too thin. I definitely agree with that. The UFC isn't what it used to be. That's right, Todd Rockwell, mate. That's it. This card looks like it's got competitive fights, so that's it, man. This looks like a good one. Telvo saying he feels like Du Plessis got more ways to win the fight. Reality Filter saying he thinks Du Plessis will manhandle Strickland. Hey, what's up, 24K Will? Mate, you know me, I'm a big fan of crypto, mate, so I've been loving the last few weeks, mate. It's amazing. I got big bags of NFTs though, so I kind of need some of that money to flow into NFTs, and then I'll be like really happy. So I'm happy with crypto. Now we need the NFTs to catch up, man. But yeah, very happy, mate. I'm loving crypto at the moment. You know what? 24K Will brings up a good point. I'd be keen to see your thoughts, to get your thoughts on this. I've seen a video from MMA Guru, a short from MMA Guru popped up on my YouTube feed the other day, where he was formulating his own UFC 300 card, which is pretty cool to watch. And it just got me thinking, similar to what 24K Will said, maybe I'm just getting old. But when I look at the UFC now, we've got obviously two massive events coming up this year. UFC 300 in April, and then we've got the big International Fight Week card in July. When I look at the UFC roster at the moment, I might be getting old, right, and boring, but there's no like massive fights, like no like massive stars or massive rivalries that I could see them throwing on that card, or on either of those cards, to get me excited. Like, if we think about the massive rivalries, the massive fights over the years, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey. Do you know what I mean? When you had like Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler, you know, these massive fights like Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz. I'm just not seeing fights like that at the moment. You know, John Jones and Stipe Miocic just doesn't do it for me at all. John Jones, Tom Aspinall, it's just not at that level. And I'm just looking at the two major cards we've got this year, and I'm like, what could the UFC like possibly put on those cards to give them like the scale, the magnitude, the theater of UFC 100 and UFC 200? Like Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Like these epic, interesting fights. Maybe I'm getting old and I'm not as, I don't get as excited by certain matchups anymore, but I just don't see a Miesha Tate versus Ronda Rousey out there. It's just, I don't know what they're going to do for UFC 300, because John Jones, Stipe Miocic ain't it. And what's real interesting is when you look at UFC 299, you think about some of the big stars in the UFC, guys like Sean O'Malley. I mean, he's fighting on UFC 299, so it's not like they can use him. You know, like O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili might have been an interesting one, but they can't do that. So I don't know what the UFC are going to do on these big cards this year. Taking your top knot nails it. He's saying that the cardio thing isn't a training thing, it's a muscle thing. And obviously, you know, Du Plessis' power comes from those big old muscles. He's saying you can't be that muscled without losing a bit in the cardio. I agree, man. Hugh Janus is saying load up on Ethereum now. I do agree with you, Hugh. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Ethereum, if I'm honest. I was for a long time, but in 2023, I really started to see issues with Ethereum, where in 2023, I really got into NFTs because obviously, you know, crypto NFTs took an absolute battering in 2023, right? So with how much NFTs were down, I thought it's a good time to start dollar cost averaging into them. And all of the NFTs that I bought were on the Ethereum ecosystem, or in the Ethereum ecosystem. And I didn't realize how bad gas fees were. And for most of, I would say, October, November and December, I never saw gas fees on Ethereum lower than $35, which is a huge issue because it makes it really difficult for altcoins on the Ethereum blockchain to pop, NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain to pop. Because if someone wants to buy, you know, if we think about it, right, what do we need for like altcoins to go parabolic or NFTs to have another crazy parabolic bull run? We need people to pile into those altcoins and NFTs, right? But what you need is, you know, your friend who doesn't know anything about crypto to suddenly become interested in crypto, your taxi driver, you know, the guy you work with. You need a lot of people to just come into crypto, right? To bring new money into you know, into the crypto market with them. That's what triggers these massive, insane bull runs. And the problem you've got is, you know, it's the people buying, you know, $50 of one altcoin, $100 of another altcoin that can pump the market. And I think that Ethereum gas fees are really going to hold that back because, you know, if your friend wants to buy $100 worth of an altcoin on the Ethereum network, but he's got to pay $35 in gas fees, like who the hell's going to do that? Do you know what I mean? He's only going to be left with $65 worth of the thing that he originally wanted to buy. So I do think there's a lot of issues with Ethereum. The Ethereum charts are looking great. I think Ethereum's going to perform really well in the near future. But what really concerns me is Ethereum is nowhere near its all-time high, right? What is it? Approximately $2,500 right now. Is that where Ethereum's at? It's at about 2.5K, right? Right, 2006. It's performed pretty well in the last day or two. Right, so it's at $2,600. I think gas fees are currently like $50, $60. The all-time high on Ethereum was around about double where price is now. So if gas fees are already $50, $60 when Ethereum's at $2,600 and people are talking about a $10,000 Ethereum, well, if ETH does run to $10,000, which would be a 4x from here, that would mean a 4x at minimum in gas fees as well. So you're looking at $200 gas fees per transaction. It's just, man, I don't know. I think there's trouble ahead for ETH. I think there's trouble ahead. As much as I love ETH, those gas fees are an absolute killer. To the extent where I bought some NFTs earlier in the year, which basically became worthless. They were only worth like $60 to $100 each. But I had about 5 of them, right? So $500 worth of NFTs. 5 of them. The problem is, if I wanted to sell those NFTs, which are worth about $100 each, I was going to have to pay $30 to $40 in gas per NFT to sell them. So what's the point? You know what I mean? I may as well keep the NFTs and hope they go back up. Why would I sell an NFT for $100 that I've got to pay $40 in fees on to sell? So this is like very dangerous for the Ethereum network, in my opinion. Very, very dangerous. And I think it's one of the reasons why you're seeing Solana run so big, because you don't have these issues with fees on the Solana network. But I don't want to go off tangent too much because I'm getting very geeky and I'm going to be boring a lot of people that I know are here for the fights. So yeah, I would be very careful with Ethereum, man. I would be very careful. Okay, so Huge Anus is saying, Huge Anus, you caught me. Bam, Huge Anus. There we go. Ran straight into it. Boom. Well, not even thinking. You got me, man. You got me. You got me. But he's saying UFC 299 is a stack card. Yeah, that's what's crazy, right? You'd think they're going to put a lot of effort into UFC 300. But UFC 299 is incredible. If anyone hasn't seen UFC 299, check this out. It is an unbelievable card. I'll just leave this in the background. I mean, look at this for a card. Absolute banger. MVP versus Kevin Holland to kick off the main card. Yadong Song, Peter Yan. So many great fights on it. Alright. Tell you what. Let's get into some fight footage, I think. And let's see what the footage shows us. So, what fight should we start off with? I think a really good one to start off with would be a couple of Duplessis fights. Because obviously Strickland's fights last quite long, so we can get a couple of Du Plessis fights ticked off, and then we can go look at Strickland. I think we'll start with Du Plessis because a big part of the discussion around betting this fight is going to be Du Plessis' gas tank. And I think by the time we've watched the Brunson and Whittaker matchups, we'll have a pretty good idea on whether or not Du Plessis' cardio is likely to be an issue for him against Strickland. So let's get into it. Let's go. Let's go. So what I will do is post the link in the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat to the Du Plessis Whittaker fight on Fight Pass and ESPN Plus. And then if you guys could jump on your account, sync it up, we'll watch these fights together using this countdown clock like Fight Companion style Joe Rogan. Obviously I can't show the fights on YouTube and Twitch, I'll get done for copyright, but we can watch them together, talk about the fights together as they're happening, and then hopefully we'll be able to figure out if this fight's worth betting. So sync up the first round of Strickland, sync up the first round of Du Plessis against Whittaker for me, and we'll all start at the same time. Switch his camera over as well. Bit of a better view. So sync up this first round for me. Let's turn this way. Alright. So sync up the first round. Here we go. So it starts at 1 minute 59 seconds on Fight Pass. Hey, what's up, Christian Rodriguez? Hope you're doing good, mate. Thanks a lot for the kind words, mate. Thanks a lot, mate. Alright, let's get into it. So everyone hit play in 5 seconds. Let's watch this fight together. So get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go. So what I'm paying real close attention to in this matchup is Du Plessis' body language, his breathing patterns, his footwork, his movement, his hand speed, things like that, to see if there's any sort of signs that he's slowing down going into the end of round 1, going into round 2. But a few people have spoken about Du Plessis' knockout power. You can see why he gets knockouts, because when you can see him as he's throwing these kicks, he throws everything into them. He's such a heavy set, big, heavy, clunky guy. You can see that everything he lands is with big impact. So he's southpaw for the most part here. He's not looking too good defensively though, right? As he's coming forward, you can see Whittaker just playing the role of Matador and landing that jab nice and clean. There's a big speed difference here. You can see Whittaker's way faster than Du Plessis. And at the moment, Whittaker's looking really comfortable. What I'm also paying close attention to here is how much energy Du Plessis is exerting. Because if he doesn't slow down, it could be because he hasn't exerted much energy compared to maybe the Brunson and Till fights where maybe he does exert a lot of energy early on. I am noticing some pretty bad striking defense from Du Plessis though. I wasn't really aware of this, or I've forgotten. I've only got so much hard drive space in my brain, so because I watch so many fights, I find it hard to remember a lot of small details from the past like 3-4 months, which is why I always research fights so that they're fresh in my mind. But I'd kind of forgotten that Du Plessis' boxing defense was this bad. Because obviously one of Strickland's strengths is, even though he doesn't move his head much, he is quite good defensively, which is why he's only been knocked out twice in 33 pro fights, and why he wasn't really in any trouble against Izzy. Like, you kind of see it there, right? He lunges in with that left hand, misses, and is wide open. Like, look there, Whittaker lands a nice right hand counter. Du Plessis is wide open here. He's looking very bad defensively. So what's interesting is we're 3 minutes in and Whittaker is very comfortable. He's outstriking Du Plessis by a wide margin. He's landing the cleaner, harder shots. Yeah, even there, when Du Plessis blitzes forward and lands that combination, none of it really lands. Whittaker's backing up, obviously, covering up, and those shots are landing on the hands and the gloves and the arms of Whittaker. So Whittaker very comfortable here. Minute and a half left to go in round one, and Whittaker is kind of cruising. He's doing a good job, like, in that sequence of making Du Plessis miss. One thing I am noticing here, guys, Du Plessis' mouth is wide open. Notice how he's starting to take big, deep breaths. Remember, this is the stage in the fight. We've been going for 4 minutes now, and we want to pay attention to his breathing, his body language, his movement. You can see his mouth is starting to open. He is starting to take big, deep breaths. So judo throw from Du Plessis. Do you know what, guys? I live bet Whittaker in this fight, and I ended up losing the bet. Watching this fight back for the first time in the cold light of day, I can absolutely see why I live bet Whittaker here. He was really, really, really comfortable until being taken down. He was kind of cruising. Du Plessis wasn't really getting near him, and he was getting picked off with the jab. Whittaker wasn't in any trouble. So I took an L on this fight, but I can definitely see why I bet Whittaker here. Whittaker was looking really good up until he got caught with that judo throw. So that's an interesting first round, because Du Plessis did not look good up until catching Whittaker with that judo throw, which completely changed the fight. Let me know what you guys think, but Du Plessis' striking defense pretty bad there, and also Whittaker made him miss a lot. So sync up the second round now. Start at 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Sync it up for me, guys. 8 minutes and 10 seconds, and we'll get into round 2. Sync it up. Oh, nice one. Nice one, Joey, my bride, mate. I really appreciate it. Hey, what's up, Parlons, mate? Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing good, mate. Alright, let's get into round 2. We're just about to start round 2 of Du Plessis against Whittaker, Parlons, mate. If you scroll up a bit, you can get links on Fight Pass and ESPN Plus to join in. So let's start round 2 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So Whittaker was very comfortable in that first round until he was taken down. Let's see how the second round looks, and how Whittaker ends up running into trouble here. I'm also paying close attention to Du Plessis' breathing patterns, because just before the takedown, he was starting to breathe quite heavy. It was very subtle, but his mouth was open wide and he was taking big, deep breaths after every exchange. Fast hands there from Du Plessis. Caught on the hands and the arms and the gloves of Whittaker, but still fast hands. Again, round 2, very similar to round 1. Whittaker doing a good job of making Du Plessis miss. or when du Plessis does land this on the hands, the arms, the gloves, Whittaker doing a good job of covering up and blocking. Du Plessis not really landing a lot. Outside of the takedown, it's been a really good performance from Whittaker, and here you can see him just kind of chipping away at du Plessis, outstriking him. Lands a nice left hand there. It's really annoying, actually. Like I say, I live bet Whittaker in this fight, and I can see exactly why. He is kind of cruising. Outside of that takedown, du Plessis hasn't really gone near him. Every combination du Plessis landed has been on the hands, the arms, the gloves of Whittaker. I mean, look at this. Again, Whittaker just and then he just gets dropped out of nowhere. Just gets dropped out of nowhere. Off a jab. And then just gets bum rushed. It's a very, very strange fight, man. It is a very, very strange fight. Whittaker basically got caught twice. He got caught with a judo throw at the end of round 1, and he got caught with a jab. Outside of that, he was very, very, very comfortable there. But what that fight does show us is du Plessis dangerous, right? As soon as he had Whittaker hurt, he went in for the kill, didn't give Whittaker any chance to recover. And you could see those shots that he was landing were hard and impactful and damaging. So you don't get much room for error with a guy like du Plessis. If he hurts you, he's got that killer instinct, you're in a lot of trouble. I'm just waiting because I want to see the slow motion replay for the knockout or the shot that initially dropped Whittaker, because it looked like a very soft shot. So I want to kind of see in slow-mo exactly what happened. Here we go. Here's the replay. It was just a jab to the nose, man. Very interesting. A jab to the nose. Hard shot. Don't get me wrong. It was a hard shot, but very, very unfortunate. I will even say this. I do think Whittaker got a bit unlucky in that fight. Like I say, outside of that jab, outside of the takedown, he looked very, very comfortable. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think. Real Eyes is saying Dricus has something you can't measure, which is determination and strength. I do agree with you, mate. He's got that... he's got kind of like that grit, that determination, that drive, that heart, right? That spirit. You are right, man. Hugh is asking if you get copyrighted even if you show the fight from the UFC YouTube channel. Yes, you know what, mate? So what Hugh's talking about is obviously the UFC upload free fights on their YouTube channel every once in a while. And I thought it'd be okay to watch these fights on these live streams, but I did it once, and during the stream got taken down for copyright, and I wasn't able to live stream for like 2 weeks. It was like a temporary ban. So yeah, unfortunately can't do it, which is annoying. 24k Will is saying, are we seeing more flash KOs in recent years? I'm not sure, man. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure, mate. What do you guys think about the Whittaker du Plessis fight? A lot of people before we watched that was saying how good du Plessis looked in that fight. I gotta be honest, I wasn't that impressed. Let me know what you think. I thought his striking defense looked really bad, and Whittaker made him miss a lot. It'll be really interesting to look at the head movement, the footwork, the striking defense of Strickland against Izzy, because obviously, no disrespect for du Plessis, no disrespect to du Plessis, but Izzy is obviously a lot more difficult to read than someone like du Plessis. So if Strickland's doing a good job of making someone like Izzy miss, you'd think he could potentially be pretty comfortable against someone like du Plessis, who's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? More of like a traditional striker, right? He's going to be a lot easier to read. Kaboomin is saying one of the hardest fights to cap. Maybe, man. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Mo Sharif is saying, I don't think we're watching the same fight. Whittaker was not dominating until the throw. Let me know how you see it, man. From my perspective, du Plessis wasn't really landing anything until the throw. He was missing on almost everything that he was throwing and getting picked off with the jab. If I'm wrong, just explain to me why, and, you know, maybe I'll view the fight differently. Realise is saying the Whittaker took 100 of those strikes from Yul but could only take a jab from Dricus. It was a strange fight. Taking your top knot is saying it looked like Whittaker's leg buckled. He struggled to stand up after the jab. Maybe his foot was injured and it wasn't necessarily the jab that caused him problems. That's a good point, man. Memes for days is saying Whittaker's kind of chinny. Maybe it was du Plessis' time for the chin upset. Palisades is saying he thinks this shows how versatile du Plessis is and how he can turn things around when things are going against him. Parlons is saying it looked like Whittaker was doing good but just got caught with a big shot. And it could happen to Strickland. That's a good point, mate. Palisades is saying du Plessis has more skills and can mix things up. I think it will make it more difficult for Strickland to read him. Not sure, man. I'm not sure about that. I do think Izzy would be a lot more difficult to read just because of his ability to set things up better than du Plessis and the more diverse range of strikes that he throws. With du Plessis, he kind of just lunges in with hooks and throws those big heavy kicks. Mo Sharif is saying he landed some good kicks and pressured Whittaker nicely in the first. When du Plessis landed, Whittaker felt it. I just think almost everything du Plessis landed in round one was blocked. Or he didn't really land anything clean for me. Whereas Whittaker was landing the clean shots with the jab. Alright, let's get into another fight. So what we'll do, if we take a look at du Plessis against Brunson, from memory, du Plessis gassed out really bad in this Brunson fight. So what we want to do is, now that we've got the visual image burnt into our mind of how du Plessis looked around that 6 or 7 minute mark against Whittaker, we want to compare that to how du Plessis looks around the 6-7 minute mark against Derek Brunson. And then hopefully we'll have some kind of idea as to how much the nose surgery that du Plessis had may have boosted his cardio. But what we've also got to be very mindful of, we've got to remember that it wasn't a super high-paced first round against Whittaker. So we've got to pay close attention to how much energy he's exerting in the first round against Brunson. To just try and gauge where his cardio is at, right? Because if there's like tons of grappling, tons of big exchanges in this first round against Brunson, well, that's going to be completely different to the first round against Whittaker. So it's no surprise if he looks more tired in round 2 against Brunson. It's not necessarily to do with the fact that he hadn't had the nose surgery yet. So what I'll do, same thing, I'll drop the links into YouTube and Twitch for the du Plessis versus Brunson fight. Here is the Fight Pass link coming up. So just sync up the first round for me. Sync up round 1, guys. Sync up round 1. I'll get the ESPN Plus link now. There you go, guys. Cyfix is saying he wonders what happens when he's up against someone like Strickland that likes to keep his opponent on the back foot. At least in that fight, du Plessis had more or less all the area he wanted to move around. And moving forwards is a lot more exhausting than moving forward. That's a really good point. An interesting dynamic in this matchup, what Cyfix is saying, is Whittaker was quite happy to counter-strike there and play the role of Matador and kind of pick du Plessis off and use his forward pressure against him. But we know Strickland likes to lead the dance as well, so you can't have two guys leading the dance. You can't have Strickland coming forward aggressively leading the dance. You can't have du Plessis doing the same. So who is the guy that is going to be forced to fight on the back foot? Now, the way it would usually work is the more powerful, more physically imposing, just the more powerful guy would be the one leading the dance, right? Because if you think about it, two guys want to be the aggressor and lead the action and put the other on the back foot, and something's got to give. Naturally, it's going to be the harder hitting, more physically imposing, more powerful dude who's going to be able to push the other back easier. And in that instance, here it looks like that would be du Plessis. We haven't seen Strickland fight on the back foot, right, which changes things a lot. So that's a really good point. That does change things. So sync up this first round for me. Du Plessis versus Brunson. It starts on Fight Pass at around 1 minute 59 again. And let's get into it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. If you're interested as well, guys, I'll do another one of these live streams tomorrow for the Raquel Pennington against Mayra Bueno Silva fight. I do think Silva could be a good bet in that one, so I thought it would be a good idea to do a live stream. One thing I've just noticed is du Plessis fought southpaw against Whittaker, but he's fighting orthodox here. Maybe he's one of these guys that likes to do the opposite of whatever his opponent is doing. So we can see Brunson southpaw here. So maybe he just wants to be in the open striking stance, and that's why he's fighting orthodox. One of the reasons why maybe du Plessis is fighting in the orthodox stance here is because obviously from the open striking stance, your power kicking leg lands with much more power, much more impactfulness. So with one of du Plessis' biggest weapons being his powerful kicks, that open striking stance kind of accentuates the power that those kicks land with. So straight away we're seeing du Plessis forced to exert a lot more energy in this first round than he did against Whittaker, or that he had to against Whittaker, because he's being forced to grapple here. So he's on his back 1 minute and 20 seconds into the fight. So Brunson in half guard here. Can't really say du Plessis was taken down. They just got caught in a crazy scramble where he ended up falling over and Brunson jumped on top of him. So du Plessis unfortunate to find himself in this position. Creates space for himself off his back though and pops back up. Very nice. Big mistake from Brunson. Jumps on a guillotine, gives up top position. But it's a very, very high pace to the start of this fight. So du Plessis allows Brunson to get the butterfly guard here after posturing up to land ground and pound. Brunson trying to create space for himself with his active guard to pop back out to his feet. Rolls for a leg now. 2 minutes 10 seconds left to go in the round. Both guys roll in for legs. And neither guy looks in any danger at all. Both look very, very comfortable. So much so they're not even bothering to defend the opponent's leg lock. They're just going for their own. Brunson now looking to defend. Gets back to the body lock. Very, very nice from Brunson. Minute and 30 left to go. Brunson very, very high up on this rear naked choke, and du Plessis shakes him off. Doesn't. Oh, very nice from Brunson to maintain this back control position. Looked like he was going to slide off there. Du Plessis breaks a grip, turns into him. They're back up on their feet. Very nice. So again, du Plessis' striking defense looking very bad here. Bit of a sitting duck on the feet, but obviously Brunson's very overly aggressive, bum rushing him here. Very bad striking defense from du Plessis. I mean, look, Brunson's kind of doing to du Plessis what du Plessis did to Whittaker midway through the second round when he had him hurt. He's not giving him any chance to recover. He's kind of swarming him and blitzing him. But you can see that du Plessis is eating clean, hard shots and is an absolute sitting duck on the feet. His striking defense is not great. 25 seconds left to go in the round, and du Plessis has not looked good in round 1 against the 40-year-old Derek Brunson. Nice elbow on the inside there from du Plessis. Spinning back fist as well. Alright, let's get into round 2. So, du Plessis obviously struggled to work his way back up to his feet for a while there. Striking defense looked pretty bad, but Brunson was going hard, coming after him hard. And a lot of the time when you're facing a guy like Derek Brunson that is just swarming you and looking to blitz you and overwhelm you, you kind of just got to hang in there, survive, and wait for them to ease off or burn themselves out. And du Plessis did a pretty good job of that. So we'll see what happens here in round 2 now. And see how things go south for Brunson, because he was looking pretty good there in round 1. So let's get into round 2 now. It starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, let's go. So, obviously the first round of the Brunson fight was contested at a way higher pace than the first round of the Whittaker fight. So you'd expect du Plessis to look a lot more tired here than he did at the beginning of the second round against Whittaker. But, how tired? He's moving alright at the moment, but his striking defense is very, very bad. He is sloppy on the feet. Very sloppy. His hand speed is very slow. And look, his mouth is, as the camera pans around, his mouth is wide open as well. I mean, look at this, how he just paws with our right hand. You can see that du Plessis' hand speed has fallen off a cliff. And obviously the implication of that is if du Plessis starts to get tired, I mean, look how sloppy he is. If du Plessis starts to get tired, he's taking big deep breaths now. If du Plessis starts to get tired and his hand speed becomes this slow this early into the fight, the probability of him hurting Strickland on the feet or knocking him out is significantly diminished, because he's just going to be too slow to catch Strickland. Yeah, du Plessis is looking awful here. Absolutely awful. His mouth is wide open. Now, obviously, the injury to his nose would explain that. Because if he can't breathe through his nose, obviously he's going to have his mouth wide open. But his mouth was wide open after the surgery against Whittaker as well. He didn't look that tired against Whittaker, but that was because perhaps he wasn't forced to exert as much energy against Whittaker as he did in this first round against Brunson. And perhaps against Strickland, deeper into the fight, he will look as tired and sloppy, maybe in the 3rd, 4th and 5th against Strickland as he does here in the 2nd against Brunson. If the Strickland fight is contested at a more reasonable pace, like we saw du Plessis compete at against Whittaker. So there's a lot to think about here, but I am starting to really consider a bet on Strickland based on what I'm seeing. Du Plessis just looks very sloppy. Like, his hand speed is really slow. He throws a lot of big wide hooks, misses a lot. We know Strickland's good with a head movement. He's good at keeping his shoulders up high, his chin tucked. I just don't... Like, Duplessis doesn't look that dangerous here to me because of how slow his hand speed is. He caught Whittaker with a jab, which hurt him really bad. Nice clean jab, great shot. But Brunson, for the most part, is very tired, but also very comfortable here. Like, it's not like Duplessis is really hurting him that much. He's struggling to land clean and hard. And Brunson is a sitting duck. I mean, look, 2 minutes left to go in round 2. Brunson looks up at the clock because of how tired he is. So Duplessis is struggling to hurt a gassed out 40-year-old Derek Brunson here. Imagine how much he could struggle against a guy like Strickland that's just gone toe-to-toe with Izzy for 25 minutes. And the thing about Strickland is that we know that he throws a very high volume of strikes. He's always pumping the jab. He's always chipping away at you. This is... I'm not going to say... I mean, look at that. Look at those big shots that Duplessis eats. You know, in this position, Duplessis is in total control. Because he hasn't really got to worry about anything that Brunson's throwing back. Brunson's too tired. But Duplessis also looks tired and sloppy. The difference between looking tired and sloppy against someone like Brunson and tired and sloppy against someone like Strickland is when you're tired and you're breathing heavy and your hand speed is slow, Strickland is going to be peppering you with volume strikes and jabs, which is not going to feel nice. Look at the big deep breaths from Duplessis. Like, the issue I have with this performance is that he's absolutely gassed out of his mind 10 minutes in against a 40-year-old Brunson, and he's got to go 25 minutes potentially against a cardio machine like Sean Strickland. So Strickland is starting to become very, very, very interesting to me as a potential bet here. I think Duplessis has looked kind of awful in this fight and the Whittaker fight. So he got the win there, but Brunson kind of gassed out 2 minutes into round 2. And then you saw the big momentum swing. That's an interesting fight. That is an interesting fight. Very, very, very interesting. So, let's watch a little bit of Strickland now. Let's take a look at Strickland versus Izzy. So what I'll do, I'll drop the links in again. Sync up the Strickland-Izzy fight. And let's get into it. So this is Strickland-Izzy. Sync up the first round for me. I'll drop in the ESPN Plus links as well. Also, guys, if you do like these live streams, please hit the like button and just basically help pump them to more people. I'd really appreciate that, guys. And then we'll do another one tomorrow against Mayra Bueno Silva, Raquel Pennington. So if you could hit the like button for me, I'd really appreciate it. Hopefully pump it out to more people. And let's get into this Izzy versus Strickland fight. So it starts at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's 3 minutes 40 seconds. Sync it up for me, guys. 3 minutes 40 seconds. And let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So what I'm paying close attention to in this fight, head movement, the ability to parry and deflect shots with the hands, the arms, the gloves. Something Whittaker had a lot of success doing against Duplessis. Just basically getting an overall read on Strickland's ability to read his opponent and defend himself. Duplessis has looked very sloppy to me. So lots of stance switches from Izzy. And you can see Strickland is showing Izzy a lot of respect here. He's reacting to every feint. Every time Izzy moves or comes forward, Strickland's backing up or moving away from it. So Sean's looking really sharp. Like I say, he's a little bit stiff, doesn't move his head much. But there are a lot of subtle movements with him, where you can see he's reacting to everything that Izzy's doing. Like that little subtle slip off the centre line there, right? Izzy threw a big right hand and Sean just slipped off to the right. Like, see how he parried the left hand of Izzy there? To try and fight his way inside to land that right hand. You can see he's doing a good job of making Izzy miss. Both guys just fighting at a very safe distance here, just chipping away at one another. Trying not to put themselves in too much danger, showing each other a lot of respect. Good head movement from Sean. Sean's striking defense looks really good here. He's doing a very, very good job of making Izzy miss. And you can see the speed of Strickland's right hand there. That's the issue that du Plessis going to potentially have in this fight. If du Plessis' hand speed dips like he did against Brunson, he's going to be a sitting duck on the feet against Strickland. And you can see Strickland's doing a really good job of using his hands and his arms to just deflect and parry Izzy's shots. He's reading everything, he's seeing everything. Beautiful right hand there from Sean. Do you notice that he slipped the left hand from Izzy and then fired the right hand counter, which knocked Izzy down? That is round one. Very interesting. Sean looking sharp, to say the least. Read everything that Izzy did in that round. Very impressive. So, sync up round two now, which starts at 9 minutes and 49 seconds on Fight Pass. Sync up round two for me. Cyfix is saying du Plessis was a lot better in his memory. I'm actually disappointed with him right now. I was leaning towards him before you started this session. I'm really looking forward to watch Strickland now. You know what, mate? This is why fight research is so important, because your mind will play tricks on you. This is why I spend so much time researching fights every week, because what happens is I'll have a perception of how a fight played out from like 5 months ago, in my mind I'll be really confident in what happened in that fight and what a fighter's strengths and weaknesses were. And then when I go back and research it and watch the fight in the cold light of day, without the commentary, without the emotion of live betting, I see the fight completely differently. And that's why I say the only place you'll find truth and honesty in this game is the fights, the fight footage. The camera doesn't lie. You know, everyone's going to have an opinion on this fight and how it's going to play out. But ultimately, the only place you're going to find truth is in the fight footage. It doesn't lie. You know, no one can watch du Plessis' fights against Derek Brunson and Robert Whittaker, in my opinion, and say du Plessis looked particularly good, because he didn't. So that's why this fight research is so important, man, because it just cuts through all the bullshit and it just shows us what is true. So Parlons is saying that he just doesn't think du Plessis is that good, and there's so many guys that would beat him at the top of the division. Memes for Days is saying du Plessis isn't good, he just finds ways to win. But Memes for Days is leaning towards Strickland now. Joey McBride is saying that he's watched plenty of Izzy's fights and he was just off that night. Didn't think he wanted to be in there and that he wanted time off. Doesn't want to discredit Sean, but Izzy really underperformed. I'm not sure, man. Like, to some degree, Izzy was definitely off. Like, I do agree with you. But at the same time, when we're looking at footage of Strickland there, he's doing such a good job of reading Izzy. Yes, Izzy was off, but at the same time, Sean can only beat what's put in front of him. And someone as elusive and tricky, someone that throws the diverse range of attacks that Izzy throws, is going to be a lot more difficult to read than someone than du Plessis that just kind of loads up on these big powerful kicks and just leaps in with these big lunging hooks, right? So the fact that Strickland was so laser focused in his ability to read Izzy makes me think he could really cause du Plessis some big problems here. Kaboomin is saying Izzy's boxing is trash. Sailor is saying, I think Sean rung his bell early and he never recovered. He was gun shy after taking the beating at the end of the round. It's a good point, man. It is a good point. I think what Sailor is saying is Izzy lost a bit of confidence when he got dropped at the end of round 1. It's a good point. Alright. And Realise is saying, I think he's referring to Strickland's right hand that caught Izzy, saying that's his favourite right hand of 2023. It was a good one, right? I root for Strickland. Who doesn't root for Strickland? How could you not like Strickland? I mean, other than obviously, you know, Ian Gary Mercado, whatever his name is these days. But obviously outside of that, how could you not root for Strickland? So let's get this round 2 going. Start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, let's go. So very, very good stuff from Strickland in round 1. And I'm looking forward to coming back tomorrow now and doing the Pennington versus Silva fight. I do think I'm probably going to be betting Strickland here. From what I'm seeing, I just don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Even money odds range. Du Plessis looked really bad in his last 2 fights. We haven't even watched the Darren Till or the Brad Tavares fight yet. I know he didn't look particularly good in either of those. Strickland's going to be full of confidence. He's the champ. He's just beaten the best middleweight in the world. Striking defense on point. Cardio looks significantly better than du Plessis. Strickland's got a big advantage on the ground over du Plessis. I'm just not really finding many reasons to not like a bet on Strickland here. Other than a flash knockout, I don't really see how du Plessis wins, because he's not going to be able to out-grapple Sean, and he's not going to be able to outstrike Sean over 25 minutes. There's no way he's going to be able to match Strickland's volume. So outside of a knockout, which could happen, that's obviously, you know, what du Plessis does best. But outside of that, I think Strickland just outworks him in the fight, you know, and wins a decision. If it goes that deep. Like, look at that there, the combination from Izzy. You can see Strickland reads everything. He knows what's coming. He blocks everything. And these are combinations from a very diverse striker. Not someone like Du Plessis that loads up on everything. His hand speed's a lot slower. What Strickland's doing a really good job of in this fight is being able to move forward and pressure Izzy without actually getting hit, which is a very difficult thing to do. If we think about all the guys that have built careers off being pressure fighters, like the Diaz brothers, like Tony Ferguson, you think about guys like Billy Quarantillo, their brand is as they move forward, they have to absorb damage to close the distance, to get inside, to apply that relentless pressure. Strickland is able to apply relentless pressure in a way where he doesn't get hit. It's like he pressures his opponent to the point where they've got to back up and react to his forward movement. But as they try and fire back to alleviate the pressure that he's putting them under, he's very good in that moment of reading them and slipping the shot and then coming straight back with the pressure. Is quite a rare skill that you don't see very often. You don't see many guys that can come forward like this without taking a lot of damage or eating a lot of shots. It's a very unique skill. As I say that, curse of the commentator, Izzy lands his cleanest shot of the fight with that nice right hand. But at the same time, even though Izzy did land that right hand, Strickland was ducking off to his right, so it didn't land with full impact. He kind of rolled with it. So again, another sign that Strickland's reading everything. What you also really notice about Strickland is that he's laser focused. Look at the concentration on his face. He's literally laser focused on Izzy and everything that Izzy is doing. Whereas when you watch Du Plessis, there's a real sloppiness. He just kind of lunges in. You can see Strickland is very, very, very focused and dialed in here. Super focused on Izzy. So that's the end of round 2. Sync round 3 up for me, guys. Let's get round 3 going. It starts at 16 minutes and 3 seconds. That's 16 minutes and 3 seconds. Sync it up, guys. 16 minutes, 3 seconds. Jeff Bruno's just brought up a really good point. So Jeff Bruno is just highlighting the fact that the Cannonier Strickland fight was super close. And he's also highlighting the fact that even though Cannonier is very old, he looks to be in his prime right now, right? Jared Cannonier's performance against Marvin Vettori was incredible. We know that guys, you know, in their late 30s, 40s are usually on a really steep decline. But every once in a while you get an outlier who goes against the trend, breaks the trend, and has some of their best years in their late 30s or 40s, right? Daniel Cormier, probably the best example we can think of. Jared Cannonier putting in the best performances of his life right now. So that's a great point from Jeff Bruno. Because when Strickland lost that close decision to Cannonier, I feel Strickland's stock kind of went down, right? It wasn't a great performance, so people kind of wrote Strickland off after the loss to Cannonier. But seeing how good Cannonier looked against Marvin Vettori, now Strickland's performance against Cannonier is a lot more impressive to me. And that's a great point from Jeff Bruno. Really, really good point. John Citizen is saying, I'd be worried about Strickland's optics. Sometimes it looks like he doesn't do enough. Definitely agree with you there, John. I think that is one of the biggest issues with Strickland. He just doesn't always do a particularly good job of putting his stamp on rounds, which is why, you know, he's been involved in a couple of close fights. Definitely agree with you, mate. 100%. I do not like the fact that Strickland often shows a lack of urgency. You even kind of see it in that second round against Izzy, where it was just razor close. He didn't do a lot to put his stamp on rounds. What I'd be banking on in his fight against Duplessis, though, is if Duplessis slows into that third, fourth and fifth round, which we would expect him to, I just think that the jabs that Strickland is going to throw will look really hard and impactful because of how sloppy Duplessis looks. You know, he's going to get knocked off balance. He's going to get stung hard. Whereas those kind of shots that Strickland lands, you know, against someone like Jared Cannonier are not going to look as impactful because Cannonier is very sharp. He's got good footwork, good movement. You know, clean jabs on someone like Cannonier aren't going to look as impactful as someone as if when they land on someone as sloppy as Duplessis. So let's get into this third round in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. That's a really good point from Jeff Bruno. What you will notice about Strickland is how often he's able to parry Izzy's shots or catch him on the hands and gloves. Just, like you see it there, right? Izzy steps in with a jab and Strickland sees it and parries it with the right hand. Now bear in mind, don't quote me, but I think something around 70% of jabs thrown land in the UFC. It's like 65-70%. So the fact that Strickland is able to deflect such a high percentage of these jabs that Izzy throws is kind of impressive. Now I'm not talking about these jabs here where he's hand fighting. I'm talking about the ones where Izzy fully commits and steps into a jab. Strickland's still reading them and parrying them. It is very, very impressive. Like you see it there, right? Izzy comes forward, goes to throw a straight left, and he just can't get past the hands of Sean. And Sean's doing a really good job of cutting the cage off here as well, which is pretty significant because Izzy's got much better footwork than Duplessis. Like, look at that. Izzy commits to the left hand, blitzes forward to the left hand. Sean sees it coming. Not only does he parry it, he leans back. Look at that. He reads the right hand as well. Strickland looking sharp. Strickland's looking very sharp. And you got to think, Duplessis is a guy that just lunges forward with his big wide hooks. Hand speed nowhere near as fast as Izzy. And look, I know Duplessis hits a lot harder than Izzy, but in my opinion, Izzy is far more difficult to read than Duplessis. Just because of the diversity of attacks you've got to think about. And the speed of Izzy as well. Look at that. Do you see that? Izzy tries to set up the power right hand off a jab. And Sean defends it in 3 ways. He grabs the hand, he keeps his left shoulder up high and he tucks his chin. And he slips off to the right, so the right hand misses. It's just very, very, very good striking defense, man. Like, we can talk all we want about Izzy having a bad night, but ultimately, he's still throwing a decent volume of strikes and Strickland is seeing everything. Can't take that away from Sean. And based on the footage of Duplessis that we've watched, And look at that, he just slips the right hand and just fires that 2-strike combination. I am almost certain I'm going to be betting Strickland in this fight. Almost certain. Maybe he gets cut, maybe Duplessis knocks him out. But skill for skill, Strickland is a level above Duplessis. Based on what I'm seeing. There's just different levels to the game. And Duplessis can close those levels with his grit, his determination, his heart, his desire to win, his power. He can find ways to win. But skill for skill, there's levels here. And in the even money odds range, Strickland would be a no-brainer to me. An absolute no-brainer. I mean, obviously we'll watch a couple more fights, but I mean, this looks a real bad stylistic matchup for Duplessis. If he doesn't knock Strickland out, I don't see how he wins a decision, because he's not going to be able to out-grapple Strickland. He doesn't have the cardio to do that. It takes a lot of energy to grapple hard for 5 rounds. And he's not going to be able to outstrike him for 5 rounds. He can land the odd big shot here and there, but he's too sloppy to outstrike Sean. Which is not going to happen. Unless Duplessis has made significant improvements to his cardio and his technique, which is possible, it's the biggest fight of his life. But if he shows up looking like he did against Whittaker, I just think he gets outworked. So sync up this next round for me. Round 4, it starts at 22 minutes and 13 seconds. 22 minutes and 13 seconds. Sync it up, guys. Sync it up. Jedi, what's up, Jedi, mate? Hope you're doing good. Jedi is saying that Duplessis is sloppy, but he's explosive and committed to things, so can land some power that Izzy couldn't. John Dorfler is saying Dricus is literally going to eat Strickland alive. The strength, the athleticism, the size, the finishing upside, the gaps are massive. He will finish this inside 3 rounds and make it look very easy. You could be right, John, but the footage isn't reflecting that. You could definitely catch Strickland with a big shot and knock him out for sure. But skill for skill, Dricus is not looking very good here, in my opinion, based on the footage we've watched. Remlis is saying Dricus got a pretty high fight IQ. Look at his grappling decisions with Robert Whittaker. But Sean's coach has got really high fight IQ. What's the most impactful, you reckon? I think that out of the 2 factors you mentioned, I would much prefer a fighter like Dricus with a strong desire to win than a fighter that may have an intelligent coach behind them, because ultimately the coach can't fight for the fighter, right? It's ultimately the fighter that's got to get the job done. I'll use TriStar as a really good example. We've seen Firas Zahabi coach one of the best fighters in the world, George St. Pierre, to be one of the most dominant champions of all time. And George St. Pierre highlighted how amazing it can be to have such a great MMA coach in Firas Zahabi, and how far that can take you. You know, would George St. Pierre have achieved the heights that he achieved without Firas Zahabi? Maybe, maybe not. But it didn't hurt to have someone as intelligent as Zahabi behind him. But then we've also seen a lot of TriStar fighters struggle in their careers, even with Zahabi behind them, their entire careers. Right? We've even seen guys like Joe Duffy that trained under Zahabi at TriStar for a very long time not live up to his full potential. So for me, I would much prefer to have a fighter like Duplessis, who's got that strong desire to win, that strong will to win, someone with a good coach behind them. Just me personally. The fighter's got to go in and do it. Coach can't do it for them, man. Realize is saying, I've bet against Dricus Duplessis 4 fights in a row and lost four times in a row, which has made me pause on this one. I get it, man. You've been a bit unlucky though, man. When you've been a little bit unlucky. Like, he was losing against Whittaker before the takedown, and then Whittaker kind of fell apart. He was losing against Brunson before Brunson gassed. We haven't watched the Till fight yet. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. We'll watch that after this one. So Kaboomin is saying, I don't know how people can be so confident in Dricus du Plessis. I do agree, mate. I slightly leaned towards Strickland before doing this research session, but I didn't really have a super strong opinion. I was just kind of open-minded. But like I say, in my Discord this week, almost everyone was leaning towards du Plessis, which surprised me. Because from memory, he looked really bad against Till, Tavares, and also Brunson. And we've watched the Brunson fight, and yeah, he did look pretty bad. So I don't know why people are favouring du Plessis here. It doesn't make much sense to me based on the footage we're watching. Let's get into round 4. Start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go. And if there's people that are just coming into this stream now and have missed the early stage of the stream and are kind of wondering why we're very much leaning towards a bet on Strickland, maybe just stick around. If you didn't watch the early part of the stream where we studied du Plessis versus Whittaker and du Plessis against Brunson, we'll watch du Plessis against Darren Till after this Strickland Adesanya fight, and watch the fight with us, and maybe you'll perhaps change your mind a little on du Plessis' level and his chances of winning this matchup. Like I say, the guy has got the heart of a lion, an incredible will to win. He finds ways to win. He hits hard. You can't count him out against anyone in the division. But this is a difficult stylistic matchup for him when you look at how he's looked in his last couple fights. Particularly the hand speed. You know, 6-7 minutes into that Brunson fight, his arms were so heavy and tired, it was almost like he was fighting underwater. So when I see Strickland looking this sharp against a striker as tricky to read as Izzy, and then I start to visualize what could happen if du Plessis' arms start to become as slow against Strickland as they were against Brunson. I mean, du Plessis is not going to have a chance. He's not going to have any chance of knocking him out by that stage in the fight, because his arms are going to be too heavy and slow to hurt Strickland. And he's going to be so sloppy, the Strickland's just going to chip away at him and eat him alive on the feet. It's just, unless du Plessis' cardio is significantly better than what we've seen, which it could be, it's the biggest fight of his life, he's had nose surgery, but it has to get a lot better. It really has to get a lot better. And I think what we'll do is we'll go and watch one of du Plessis' fights from a while ago, which went the distance, to see how his cardio looked in that fight before he had the nose injury. And then that might give us some insight into what du Plessis' cardio is like under normal circumstances, where there is no nose injury to worry about. But like someone said, I can't remember who said it earlier on in the stream, I think the reason why du Plessis slows is the power just comes at a cost. He's so big, he's so heavy, he's so muscular. All those muscles are just going to come at a cost, and that's why he slows. And Sean's not even breathing heavy, and we're almost 20 minutes into a 5-round title fight. Again, Strickland just very sharp in this round. I mean, look at Strickland, man, from this camera angle. He's literally stood in front of the best striker in the division, one of the best strikers in the history of the middleweight division, for 20 minutes. He's barely got a scratch on his face. He looks like he's just come home from taking the dog for a walk. I literally take more damage walking my dog than Strickland has taken in the octagon with one of the best strikers in the history of the middleweight division. Stood right in front of him for 20 minutes. It's seriously impressive, man. It's really, really, really impressive. So sync up round 5 for me now, which starts at 28 minutes and 20 seconds. That's 28 minutes and 20 seconds. Sync it up. Jedi is saying he's not confident either way on this one. Real Eyes is saying Duplessis looks terrible in every fight but keeps winning. It's a paradox. I do agree, mate. I do agree. It's just Duplessis just finds ways to win, right? It's a strange one. Dorfler is saying Strickland will 100% be the public side. Everyone in the States is obsessed with him. Duplessis at plus 114 is a great bet. Laying minus 140 on a guy with the finishing upside of a 90-year-old grandma is absurd. Do you know what, John? It is interesting. I don't know which way the money is weighed either side. But in my Discord community, everyone is leaning towards Duplessis. So that would contradict your thoughts on Strickland being the side most people are on. It does, like, my feeling is that most people are on Duplessis and Strickland's actually the contrarian side, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's just my maybe my Discord community is different to the wider MMA community, but usually it's quite representative of the wider MMA community. So seems like more people are on Duplessis for this one. Kambumin is saying that money's been steadily coming on Duplessis since the line dropped, so you're wrong. That's what I thought. I thought that the majority of money was coming on Duplessis. So yeah, not sure. Okay. So Remless is saying there's something to be said about Strickland's cardio. He's also dictating the pace and fights his fight. His cardio might not be as good if he has to fight outside his comfort zone. I'm not sure about that, man. We've seen Strickland over the years in so many different styles of fights, and he's never slowed. I think he's just one of those guys with that relentless genetic gas tank that never ever lets him down. I wouldn't be worried about Strickland's cardio in this one. And Jeff Bruno is saying that Strickland's odds are starting to decline on his betting site. So let's get into this 5th round now. Let's sync it up, get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So what we'll do, as soon as this 5th round is done, we'll watch Duplessis versus Darren Till. And then we'll figure out if we need to watch any more footage from there. Maybe we won't. Maybe I will watch the Pereira Strickland fight. I'd like to see how Strickland got knocked out against Pereira. Maybe we'll watch the Abus Magomedov fight as well to see how Strickland made him pay when he started to get tired. Because I do think cardio could be a big factor in this matchup. Of course, problem with Strickland and researching Strickland is all of his fights pretty much look the same, right? So I don't know how much value we're going to get from watching tons of his fights, because he uses the same game plan and strategy in all of them. Doesn't really mix things up too much. very, very impressed by the sharpness of Strickland. And again, what will be interesting when we watch Darren Till versus Du Plessis is, again, just paying attention to how Du Plessis looks around that 6 or 7 minute mark. We noticed about 4 minutes into the Whittaker fight, Du Plessis' mouth started to open. He started to take big deep breaths after every exchange. Be interesting to see how he looks, you know, 4 minutes in, minute left to go in round 1 against Till. Because obviously the first round of the Brunson fight was contested at a crazy pace. So it's no surprise that Du Plessis was tired in round 2, but he was absolutely gassed out of his mind. He wasn't just tired. You can see here, Strickland barely even breathing heavy. No damage at all. He's been in there for almost 25 minutes. One of the best strikers in the history of the middleweight division. Like I say, yes, Du Plessis hits a lot harder than Izzy, but he's also a lot easier to read and has much worse cardio. Right, boss, can you get me a drink? Thanks, boss. It's kind of incredible that in almost 25 minutes, Izzy's barely landed a clean hard punch, and he's thrown a lot. Striking defense of Strickland is just unbelievable. Like, look at that there. Izzy sat down on that 2-strike combination, and Strickland was able to use head movement to slip both shots and deflect both shots. Even there, Izzy tried to pot shot him with the right hand, and Strickland was able to deflect, block with the left hand. Something that Strickland has done so well in this fight. Izzy just hasn't been able to land anything. Cheers, boss. So, looks like we're going to be betting Strickland this weekend. Hopefully we'll be able to dig up a bet on that Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva fight tomorrow. And this is one of those matchups, when it comes to gambling, at the end of the day, by the time this stream's done, we will have spent about 2 hours researching this fight. And you've got, you know, at the end of the day, show me a fight which doesn't have any risk factors. I'll show you a fight that hasn't been researched properly. Every single fighter you bet, there's going to be risk factors with him. Du Plessis hits hard. He might punch Strickland very hard in the face and knock him out. It could happen. But the level between these two is just gigantic. And the risk to reward ratio, being able to bet Strickland in the even money odds range, it's amazing. And this does look like another one of those examples where hype is influencing the odds, where people's perception of Du Plessis is that he's better than he actually is. And a few people in this stream have said, you know, after watching footage of him, they're a bit disappointed. They thought he was better than he actually has turned out to be. So what we'll do now is take a look at the Darren Till versus Du Plessis fight. So sync up this next one for me. Sync up the first round. I'll grab the ESPN Plus link for you now, and we'll see how Du Plessis looked in this matchup. Now, what we'll do is we'll take a look at this fight, and then what we'll do is take a look at Du Plessis' fight against Roberto Soldic back in 2018. The reason why we'll take a look at this one is because obviously Du Plessis spoken a lot about nose issues being the reason why he's gassed in these fights, and then he's had nose surgery to correct the issue post Derek Brunson. So what we'll do is go back to his fight against Roberto Soldic from 2018. But just take a look at how Duplessis looked in the second half of this matchup, because the nose issue would not have been a thing back then. So that'll give us like a decent read on, what Duplessis' cardio is actually like without any nose issues. And that'll probably be all we need to do when it comes to Duplessis. And then we'll watch maybe a couple more fights of Strickland's, maybe the Magomedov one, the Pereira one. Maybe one more. Maybe we'll watch Imavov or Cannonier. Maybe. Although, like I say, when it comes to Strickland, all of his fights look the same. So maybe I won't bore you with that. Maybe I'll just do it myself. So anyway, let's get into this next one now. Duplessis versus Till. Start it up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go. Let's go. So one thing we noticed really early on in the Whittaker fight was that Duplessis' striking defense was very, very bad. It's a nice double leg here on Till. Till crawls over to the octagon to start trying to wall walk back up to his feet. So remember, we do think cardio could potentially have a huge impact on the outcome of this fight. So we're paying close attention in this first round to how much energy Duplessis is exerting, so that when he does start to look tired in round 2, we can kind of measure how reasonable and acceptable that is based on how much energy he exerts in this first round. So Duplessis landing heavy shots here from back control. Until just not committing to standing back up, which is just allowing Duplessis to hammer him from this position. We've been talking about fighters that never lived up to their potential. We mentioned Joe Duffy earlier on. Darren Till, one of the best examples of a fighter that never lived up to his potential. I remember when he first started his career and he trained in Brazil. He was absolutely incredible. So aggressive, durable. He had that killer instinct. You remember his fight against Donald Cerrone, and then he was knocked out by Jorge Masvidal. No, actually, before that, I can't remember what fight was first. Was it the Woodley fight or the Masvidal fight first? I can't remember which way round it was. But he was knocked out in London by either Masvidal or Woodley, and then he just fell off a cliff. I think he was knocked down by Woodley and then submitted. He was knocked out by Masvidal. But was never the same, man. He lost so much confidence in those fights. And here he's just kind of allowing Duplessis to chip away at him up against the cage without showing urgency to disengage from this position. And you're seeing Duplessis give him a lot of space in there to dig underhooks as well. Darren Till shouldn't be giving up takedowns like that, man. There was so much space in there to dig double underhooks, which would have made it very, very difficult for Duplessis to get in deep in enough on the legs to upset his balance like that. Till's just a frustrating fighter to watch because he makes so many mistakes. And I think that's really a trend that I've noticed throughout these fights we're watching of Duplessis. Duplessis can only beat what's put in front of him, but in these 3 fights that we've watched, his opponents have kind of imploded. Whittaker was cruising until giving up that takedown towards the end of round 1. Brunson gassed very bad 2 minutes into round 2. And Till is just making so many mistakes on the ground, not showing urgency to pop back up to his feet, kind of allowing Duplessis to hammer him up against the cage, not fighting for underhooks when there's so much space in there to dig underhooks. He's just making life very difficult for himself, which to the untrained eye will make it look like Duplessis is a fucking South African Khabib here, right? But in reality, a lot of the success that Duplessis is having in this fight and in these positions is down to mistakes that Darren Till's made, not showing urgency to get his back off the cage, not showing more urgency to stand back up when he was in a position to wall walk. not trying to dig underhooks when Duplessis was in on the double leg that led to this back take. And there you can see, as soon as Till just turns into Duplessis, Duplessis loses the position. And then a big mistake from Till, almost pulls guard off a guillotine. Crazy. So both guys, you know, making a lot of mistakes here. And we're already seeing 4.5 minutes in, Duplessis' mouth is wide open and he's taking big deep breaths here, and he just falls over throwing a kick because of how tired he is. So we're already seeing signs that Duplessis is gassing out, and we're only 4.5 minutes in, and we've literally just seen Strickland go 25 hard minutes with one of the best middleweights in the world without barely breaking a sweat. And this is Duplessis looking tired after he has literally been in total control in that first round against Till. So sync up round 2 for me now, which starts at 8 minutes and 2 seconds on Fight Pass. That's 8 minutes and 2 seconds on Fight Pass. Sync it up, guys. David L is saying, didn't he have the nose issues back in KSW? Do you know what, mate? I have no idea. I assumed it was a relatively new issue. So let me know, man. If anyone knows the answer to David's question, please let me know. Because there's obviously no point in watching the Solditch fight if Duplessis had the nose issue his whole career. Jeff Bruno is saying, I initially thought Duplessis would be a tough fight for Strickland because of the grappling, but he only has 1 or 2 grappling exchanges in him before he's spent. Yeah, for sure, man. That's the thing, Jeff. Like, if Duplessis grapples against Strickland, he's going to be in so much trouble. He's just going to burn through all the energy that he's got. It's just... Duplessis' path to victory is so limited in this fight. Other than a big flash knockout out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere, is it? Because Duplessis does hit hard. But other than just a big knockout, I just don't see how Duplessis wins this fight. So let's get into round 2. Starting 8 minutes and 3 seconds. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, round 2. Nice heavy inside leg kick there from Till. One thing I've noticed as well, remember we said that Duplessis appears to be a guy that likes to fight in the opposite stance to his opponent to maintain that open striking stance. There's a little bit of stance switching here from Duplessis, but for the most part he's fighting orthodox here, which is super interesting because Darren Till is southpaw. Brunson was also southpaw. So what we're seeing from Duplessis is he fights in the stance opposite to his opponent. And I think why he does that is obviously his kicking game is his best weapon. When you fight in the open striking stance, the power and impactfulness of your power kicking leg is accentuated. And so I think that's why we see Duplessis keep the fight in the open stance. Because when he uncorks the power right kicking leg here, it's going to land with maximum impact on Till. Whereas against Whittaker, who fought orthodox, Duplessis fought southpaw. It's just very interesting how Duplessis does that, because that's the kind of thing you'd see from a really high level striker, and Duplessis is quite sloppy. He's not a particularly technical striker, so that's kind of surprising to me how he's that tactical and strategic when he doesn't necessarily have the technical skills to back it up. Big counter left hand there from Till, and you can see Duplessis just an absolute sitting duck here. Very sloppy, very bad defensively. Guys, I don't think I need to watch any more footage. Based on what we've seen in this stream, if you don't think Strickland's a good bet in the even money odds range, I literally can't. I just have no words. Like, based on what we've seen, the footage doesn't lie at the end of the day. He is literally a sitting duck on the feet. He's been outstruck by Whittaker. Outstruck in round 1 against Derek Brunson until Brunson got too tired to defend himself. Outstruck by Darren Till. And we've literally just seen Sean Strickland beat the brakes off one of the best strikers in the history of the middleweight division for 25 minutes, where he barely had a scratch on his face at the end of it. Outside of Duplessis loading up on a big winging hook and catching Strickland with something crazy, I just don't see how Strickland loses this fight. The skill gap is absolutely fucking enormous. Like, here, we're only, like, guys, just understand the timeline. We're 7.5 minutes into this fight. Du Plessis' mouth is wide open, taking big deep breaths, slow hand speed, barely any movement. He's a sitting duck on the feet. We're 7.5 minutes in. He's got to face Sean Strickland, who's a cardio machine, in a 25-minute title fight on Saturday. He's not even 33% of the way through. My wife literally just texted me. She's gone to bed. She's like, don't forget to clean the kitchen, motherfucker. Don't forget to clean the kitchen. Okay, I won't. We'll fucking get this stream. I'll clean the damn kitchen. Take the damn dog for a walk. But yeah, like I was saying, look at how bad Du Plessis looks here. And he's not even 30% of the way through a title fight. Yes, Strickland will probably train harder. Oh, sorry, Du Plessis will probably train harder. Maybe his cardio would be a bit better. But he looks awful. He looks absolutely awful. I don't know how anyone can research this fight and tell me Du Plessis is a good bet. I just don't understand. I don't get it, man. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. He is so low level on the feet. I just don't get it, man. Help me out. There's been some people that have said Du Plessis is a good bet this weekend and he's going to smoke Strickland and all this sort of stuff. Please tell me why that is likely to happen based on what we've seen. Because Du Plessis looks awful, man. I just don't get it. I don't get the confidence in Du Plessis. It's not like Strickland's a big favourite and you're getting a value bet on Du Plessis. It's not like Du Plessis is a big underdog and you're rolling the dice on him being able to catch Strickland. Both these guys are in the even money odds range. You get a similar return for betting either of them. Based on the footage we've watched, I don't know how you could take Du Plessis in a situation where the risk to reward ratio is roughly 1-to-1. I just don't get it, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. So let's sync up this third round and let's see what happens in this third. So round 3 starts in 14 minutes and 23 seconds. Sync it up, sync it up, sync it up, sync it up. Alright, so it looks like there's no point in watching Du Plessis fights in KSW because David is letting us know that Du Plessis had the nose issues for a long time. So, you know, it's pointless going back that far. So I think we're done with Du Plessis after this. We'll just watch a couple more of Strickland's fights. I think we'll be done with this stream. I'm going to be betting Strickland. Obviously, this is just for entertainment, not financial advice. Do your own research. You know, I'm not telling you to do anything. But based on the footage I've watched, I feel very comfortable. Strickland gives me a very good risk to reward ratio in this even money odds range. So let's start this third round in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go. What I will say about Du Plessis, what I've noticed about him, is if he has one big period in the fight where he exerts a lot of energy, like one crazy back and forth period of striking that lasts for 3-4 minutes where it's a war, or if he has one big grappling exchange, if he just has that one big period of exertion, he's done, man. His hand speed falls off a cliff. He just becomes very tired, very sloppy. It's like he's got one big burst of energy in him, and then after that, very, very sloppy. That's a trend we've seen in all of his fights. It's just a sitting duck on the feet. I've just got visions of him gassing out by round 3 and Strickland just chipping away at him from behind that jab, like, racking at major volume. Like, if we just think about it in terms of, like, logic, right? Izzy is one of the best fighters in the history of the middleweight division. Du Plessis is nowhere near Izzy's level based on the footage we've watched. And Strickland cruised to a win against Izzy. Like, there's really no need to complicate things in situations like this. The fight is in the even money odds range, man. Like, these odds are crazy. Strickland should be a way bigger favourite. If I was capping this fight, I'd have Strickland at around a 1.40 minus 250 favourite. You know, maybe you give Du Plessis that 30% chance of landing a big knockout. But outside of that, I don't see Du Plessis outstriking Strickland, and I don't see him out-grappling him. So unless he wins by knockout, very unlikely he wins. And what percentage is it fair to cap Du Plessis as winning by knockout? 30% maybe? I mean, 40% is a stretch, right? What's the absolute maximum probability you can give Du Plessis of knocking Strickland out? Bearing in mind the fact Strickland just went 25 minutes with one of the best strikers in the history of the middleweight division and barely had a scratch on his face at the end of it. And also, bear in mind the fact that Strickland's only been knocked out twice in 33 pro fights. And he's consistently been competing against some of the best welterweights and middleweights in the world during his time in the UFC. But once again, despite looking very bad, Du Plessis finds a way to win against all the odds. He just keeps finding ways to win. It's a paradox. Realize said it earlier on. It can't be explained. It doesn't make any sense. He just keeps finding ways to win. He just keeps doing the business. So Cyfix is asking how Strickland's grappling is and whether it's possible Du Plessis could take Strickland down and submit him in round 1. It's not impossible. It could happen. But Strickland's a much higher level MMA grappler than Du Plessis is. So it is very unlikely. So what we'll do now, guys, a couple more fights I want to watch. We'll watch Abus Magomedov, Strickland, and we'll watch Strickland versus Pereira. In actual fact, let's do Strickland versus Pereira first. Just because we've said so many nice things about Sean. Maybe we need to balance things out by watching him get knocked out. How about that? So here's the link for the Pereira versus Strickland fight. Sync it up. Sync it up, guys. Get in on that. Get in on that. Sync it up, guys. So this starts at... So this fight starts at 1 minute 44 seconds. How's the world of crypto doing, man? How's the world of crypto doing? Got a trade on Optimism at the moment. I do think Optimism is going to go for Blue Sky Breakout, new all-time high, really, really soon. This top blue horizontal line here represents previous all-time high. This blue line here, you can see where price is here, and Optimism has got a lot more room to run, a lot more legs left to run in it. And when you see something with a lot of legs and a lot of room left to run, this close to previous all-time high, very, very close to Blue Sky Breakout. So Optimism looking tasty. Not financial advice, I'm just an idiot on the internet that knows absolutely nothing about anything. I'm a goon, I'm a fraud, I'm a fool. Don't listen to me. But maybe look into Optimism, because to me there's a decent chance it goes into Blue Sky Breakout relatively soon, and if that happens, big gains quite often on the table when you combine crypto with Blue Sky Breakouts and bull markets, and all three of those things could line up pretty soon. So anyway, let's get into this next fight. Pereira, Strickland, started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's just get on the minute chart. Why not? Let's have a look at the 1 minute chart while we leave the countdown clock in the background. Pop that there, pop that there. And we don't want to take our eyes off the fight for very long, because it doesn't last very long. So I want to see how Strickland gets knocked out here, because his striking defense was so good against Izzy. I want to see how Pereira caught him. One thing I will say, look at the size of Pereira, man. As the camera pans round to this sideways angle, he looks a lot bigger than Strickland. Pereira absolutely huge in there. So what I'm noticing in this first round is Strickland's doing a really good job, just like the Izzy fight, of reading Pereira and slipping everything that Pereira's throwing. Doing a good job of hand fighting, staying laser focused and reading Pereira. So I'm interested to see how Pereira catches him here. You can see there, Pereira really committed to that right hand, and Strickland just read it in time to back up enough where the right hand didn't land with full impact. But I'm wondering if that enabled Pereira to kind of get a read and make an adjustment so that he follows through and commits harder to the next right hand that he throws. Oh, it's a left. Jesus, Strickland got caught with an absolute bomb there. But bit of a difference in hand speed between Plessis and Pereira, right? Plessis a lot slower than Pereira. That left hand came so fast, I barely even noticed it. It was a light speed left hand. So now let's take a look at Abus Magomedov versus Sean Strickland. And I'll post the link in Twitch and YouTube. And to be honest with you, I think something like that happening here, where Plessis kind of loads up on a big shot and knocks Strickland out, is pretty much the only chance Plessis has in this. And it could definitely happen, there's no doubt about that. But with how much we've seen Plessis slow, how likely is it really? You know? Alright. So, let's get into this first round. Start it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Hey, ay, 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 ay. So, Magomedov, obviously very aggressive. He's fast. He's a more technical striker than Plessis. So what I'm looking at is how Strickland's striking defense looks in this first round. Because we've seen Strickland against two very different styles of strikers now in Pereira and Izzy. We're getting to see him against a very different style of striker now. But obviously we've got an eye poke, and we'll let this eye poke play out and then get back into it. So anyway, guys, as we wrap this stream up, we're coming to an end. Thank you all for watching this with me, and thank you all for helping me research this fight. It's way more fun researching fights as a group, and I learn a lot from you guys. You guys bring up some amazing points I wouldn't think about otherwise, which helps me with my research. But But let me know what you think of this fight. Are you going to be betting Du Plessis? Are you going to be betting Strickland? Are you going to be passing on this fight? I'm going to come back around about the same time tomorrow and do a live stream for Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Hopefully we can dig up a bet on that matchup. I do think Silva could potentially be a good bet in that fight. My lean coming into this matchup was Strickland. My lean is even stronger now. And I will definitely be betting Sean Strickland in this fight. Hopefully he can avoid getting knocked out. If he can avoid getting knocked out, I think he'll outwork Du Plessis and hopefully come through for us and get the job done. Still waiting for this eye poke to play out. Taking your top knot is saying the 5 jabs to the body from Pereira, throws Sean, and that's how he got caught with the left hook. Thanks for letting us know, taking your top knot, mate. Great point, man. Pereira's setting Strickland up for the left hand with the jab. So what do you think, Top Knot? Do you think Du Plessis is capable of kind of laying the same traps for Sean that Pereira did? Or do you think that Pereira's speed is the main reason why Du Plessis, or the main reason why Strickland got caught? Let me know what you think, man. So the fight, we're still waiting for the fight to continue. Sorry about this, guys. Didn't realise this went on for this long. I think it starts back up now. Ay, 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 ay. How my NFTs doing? Let's look at my, we had to look how much my crypto, how my crypto is doing. Let's have a look at my NFTs. They always ruin my day. Exactly where they were last time I checked. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Alright, let's get back to the fight. Strickland's ready to go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. So Magomedov coming out very, very hard, very aggressive here. Kind of in a similar way to what we might get from Du Plessis. Obviously, we know Du Plessis is very aggressive. Swings kind of wild. It's a different approach to what Strickland had to deal with against both Pereira and Izzy. Look at the head movement of Sean there as Magomedov lunges forward with that combination. Again, is able to slip that left hand. You can see Sean showing Magomedov a lot of respect. What I'm noticing here is Magomedov is very, very aggressive, but Sean's striking defense still looks excellent. Obviously, against Izzy, he was on the front foot, dictating the pace, leading the dance, but he was able to read Izzy very well, deflect the vast majority of Izzy's shots, parry them, slip them, block them. And he's doing the same thing to Magomedov here, except he's on the back foot. So what this fight is showing me is not only is Strickland's striking defense extremely good when he's moving forward and leading the dance, it's also very good when he's reactive and on the back foot, which is a big deal because we don't really know at what range the Du Plessis fight is going to take place in, because we know Du Plessis is an aggressive guy that likes to come forward. So Strickland may be forced to fight on the back foot against Du Plessis, but this fight is showing me he's pretty capable of doing that. And now you're seeing, now the Strickland started to find his range, he's starting to come forward, try to lead the dance now and put Magomedov on the back foot. See there, right? He's reading everything. Magomedov loads up on the left hand and Sean just deflects it off the right arm. Oh, that head kick got through, very, very nice. But again, Sean was leaning back, so didn't land with full impact. Beautiful deep double leg there from Magomedov. You can see Sean does a really good job of getting that underhook in play on the left side quickly. Magomedov does get the takedown, and then Strickland immediately turns into him, scrambles back up to his feet. Very, very nice. Breaks the grip. They're back up on their feet. Beautiful work. So that's one potentially big issue for Strickland that we haven't talked a lot about in this stream, and that's the leg kicking game of Du Plessis. We haven't really spoken about it because Du Plessis didn't throw many leg kicks in his last few fights, but we do know Du Plessis' leg kicks are one of his best weapons. And we know Strickland's one of these guys, does stand very heavy on the lead leg. We just saw Magomedov hammering with a leg kick there. Strickland is a bit of a sitting duck to leg kicks, and we know they're one of Du Plessis' best weapons. But again, talking about risk to reward ratios, Strickland in the even money odds range. Take my money all day long. Take my money. Alright, sync up round 2 for me now, guys. Sync up round 2. Sync up round 2, which starts at 11 minutes and 58 seconds. Cyfix is saying that he thinks he's going to bet Strickland. He's going to sleep on it and decide tomorrow. Only issue he has is that he's unsure if Strickland is going to be affected inside the octagon by what happened at the press conference. You know what? My only criticism of Strickland is that sometimes he's not aggressive enough, so I hope that'll actually light a fire underneath him. So taking your top knot is saying that Dricus doesn't set traps, he just has one equaliser, his big blitzing attacks. Yeah, what I'll do, Hugh, I will definitely do a breakdown video for the Allen versus Evloev fight. We might do a live stream if you want it. Let me know. I suppose we could do a live stream. Maybe we'll do a live stream for that if enough people want it. If this one, if enough people are interested in this one and the Silva versus Pennington one. All right, so let's get this final round of the stream going, and we'll come back tomorrow and do Pennington and Silva. So this starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, go, go. Go, go, go. So Strickland was pretty cautious in round 1, showed Magomedov a lot of respect. Took time to find his range. Now he's getting more aggressive at the start of this round. You see he's really putting it on Magomedov now and going in for the kill. And just think, man, if Duplessis starts to fade and Strickland starts to come forward like this and really put it on him, it's just going to accelerate the rate at which he gets tired. And remember, without Duplessis having his grappling to alleviate the pressure that Strickland could put on him, he could really be in a lot of trouble pretty quick. So even money odds range, I do like Sean in this one. We like it, we like it. Yeah, remember how tired and sloppy Duplessis was looking in those fights we watched, and look at how Sean just doesn't ease off the gas here. You know, you can see Magomedov's tired, and Sean just smothers him in pressure and volume. Doesn't let him off the hook, doesn't give him any time to recover. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love researching a fight and finding a good bet. I'm not saying Strickland will win, but in the even money odds range, he is a great bet. There's no doubt about that. But you know what they say, man, good bets don't always win, bad bets don't always lose. Duplessis hits hard, maybe he catches Strickland with something big, but skill for skill, man. Strickland's a bit of a gift in the even money odds range based on what we've seen in this stream. These combos from Strickland, the hand speed, like compare the hand speed of Strickland here to the hand speed of Duplessis 7 or 8 minutes into his fights. Just different levels, man. I love it. Do you know what? I could actually see this fight against Duplessis going a similar way to this fight against Magomedov, where Duplessis has some success early and Strickland has to kind of stand back and just absorb those blitzing attacks from Duplessis and just kind of hang in there and just wait for Duplessis to fade a little and then put it on him. I could see the Duplessis fight playing out in a really similar way. And that is it, guys. Thank you very much for helping me research this one. It's been way more fun researching this fight with you guys than just by myself. So I really appreciate it. Have a great night. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow in the Silva versus Pennington stream. If you can't make it tomorrow, thanks anyway for being here tonight, and have a great week. I hope you crush it on Saturday night, make loads of money. Love you all. Nice one, guys. Take care, and I'll see you very, very soon. So night everyone, night Cyfix, night mate, night Hugh, night taking your top knot, night David, night Jeff, night Rudy. Take care everyone, love you boys. Night guys, bye.